Everyone had always said that John would be a preacher when he grew up, just like his father. It had been said so often that John, without ever thinking about it, had come to believe it himself. Not until the morning of his 14th birthday did he really begin to think about it, and by then it was already too late.
His earliest memories, which were in a way his only memories, were of the hurry and brightness of Sunday mornings. They all rose together on that day. His father, who did not have to go to work and led them in prayer before breakfast, his mother, who dressed up on that day and looked almost young, with her hair straightened and on her head the close-fitting white cap that was the uniform of holy women. His youngest brother, Roy, who was silent that day because his father was home. Sarah, who wore a red ribbon in her hair that day and was fondled by her father. And the baby Ruth, who was dressed in pink and white and rode in her mother's arms to church.
The church was not very far away, 4 blocks up Lenox Avenue, on a corner not far from the hospital. It was to this hospital that his mother had gone when Roy and Sarah and Ruth were born. John did not remember very clearly the first time she had gone to have Roy. Folks said that he had cried and carried on the whole time his mother was away. He remembered only enough to be afraid every time her belly began to swell, knowing that each time the swelling began, it would not end until she was taken from him, to come back with a stranger. Each time this happened, she became a little more of a stranger herself. She would soon be going away again, Roy said. He knew much more about such things than John. John had observed his mother closely, seeing no swelling yet, but his father had prayed one morning for the little voyager soon to be among them, and so John knew that Roy spoke the truth.
Every Sunday morning then, since John could remember, they had taken to the streets, the Grimes family, on their way to church. Sinners along the avenue watched them. Men still wearing their Sunday evening clothes, wrinkled and dusty now, muddy-eyed and muddy-faced, and women with harsh voices and tight, bright dresses, cigarettes between their fingers or held tightly in corners of their mouths. They talked and laughed and fought together, and the women fought like the men. John and Roy, passing these men and women, looked at one another briefly. John embarrassed and Roy amused. Roy would be like them when he grew up, if the Lord did not change his heart. These men and women they passed on Sunday mornings had spent the night in bars or in cat houses or on the streets or on the rooftops or under the stairs. They had been drinking. They had gone from cursing to laughter to anger to lust. Once he and Roy had watched a man and woman in the basement of a condemned house. They did it standing up. The woman had wanted 50 cents, and the man had flashed a razor.
John had never watched again. He had been afraid. Roy had watched them many times, and he told John he had done it with some girls down the block. And his mother and father, who went to church on Sundays, they did it too. And sometimes John heard them in the bedroom behind him, over the sound of rats' feet and rats' screams, the music and cursing from the harlot's house downstairs. The church was called the Temple of the Fire Baptized. It was not the biggest church in Harlem, nor yet the smallest, but John had been brought up to believe it was the holiest and best. His father was head deacon in this church. There were only 2, the other a round black man named Deacon Braithwaite, and he took up the collection and sometimes he preached. The pastor, Father James, was a genial, well-fed man with a face like a darker moon. It was he who preached on Pentecost Sundays and led revivals in the summertime and anointed and healed the sick.